waiting in line for the breakfast or lunch in the conference. And that is where great relationships happen. Hey everyone, my name is Najeeb, and I've been working remotely for 8 years now. In the past 8 years, I've learned a thing or two about working remotely and making friends. The thing is, when you do that, when you work remotely, there are pros, and a lot of pros are the freedom, the flexibility, and I'm pretty sure you know that if you work from home, you have all that option. However, that comes at a cost, and the cost is loneliness. At least that's one of the costs. Based on some surveys, 30% of people surveyed cited that loneliness is one of the biggest challenges, if not more than 30%, one of the biggest challenges for working remotely or working at home. And it makes sense because when you're working at home, unlike when you're working in the office where I used to, and when I used to work in the office, I had my coworkers next to me. I was able to kind of tap them on the shoulder and just ask, hey, how's your weekend? But when you work remotely, you don't get that. And that's what sucks. So in this video, I'm going to share 5 different ways of making friends when you work from home. If you want to join a private community of like-minded founders and remote leaders, take a look at Council Club. The link is below, or just head to council.club. Here are 5 ways to make friends when you're working from home. Number 1 is going outside. Going outside is very simple that anyone can do, whether you work at home in a metropolitan city like New York or you're working somewhere more rural. What that means is you're just going out to your local coffee shop, cafe, restaurant, gym, and you can find people who are working there as well. Or you can just find people who are not working and start building a conversation through there. That is one way. The other place is going to events, and the events vary on a wide spectrum. There are free events, there are meetups, there are conferences, all of those places that you can schedule perhaps one day a week or one day a month, or even more if you're up for it. So that's another place, but what you want to be aware of is if you're going to events, you want to focus on quality, because sometimes when you go to conferences, it's just listening to a lot of speakers, and you might have 1 or 2 good connections, and that's what you want to focus on, because at the end of the day, the connections and relationships of good friends are made not while you're listening to someone speak, but rather in the conversations, whether it's in the hallway or it's waiting in line for the breakfast or lunch in the conference. And that is where great relationships happen. The next is Workspaces. Now, Workspaces vary a wide bit. There are libraries, there's co-working spaces, there are also other designated areas such as offices. In those places, you can kind of hop right in if they allow for day passes, and you can talk to others. However, one of the challenge becomes is if you're not a regular, it might be somewhat difficult to get a conversation going with someone who's in the middle of work. So you want to pick your place carefully, and I'm going to create another video on how to choose co-working spaces. But in the meantime, at least for now, you can decide on how to choose the right co-working spaces for you. That's based on perhaps location, but also based on the community. The 4th is looking at online. And online actually breaks down into 2 elements. One is social media and just connecting with people on Twitter, Facebook, or other areas. And the other part, which is the 5th, is online groups. The online groups, you want to be aware of the communities and what they are and who's in it. When it comes to remote groups, you're going to find there are 2 camps. One is a free-for-all. That means anyone or everyone can join, and that's often tend to be free. On the other hand, is more paid or perhaps curated. What you're going to see along the spectrum is that for the free or online or free that's open to everyone groups, is you might feel a lot of noise there of perhaps the same conversations happening again, or what you'll even find is people that are just trying to be salesy, trying to push to each other, just are there just to exchange business cards rather than forming relationships. On the other hand, there are paid that are paid, but it can still be somewhat similar because they allow anyone to pay and anyone joins, and people still exchange business cards and selling their services and kind of having the messages all over there just about their promotions. Or on the other end of the spectrum, what you're going to find is a curated community that is something that is like Council Club, where it's a curated community, and what happens is everyone's there is vetted, everyone's through application process, and it is paid. So what that allows you to do is have a community that's focused on quality, that's not on quantity. And depending on what you feel like, that could work out best for you. However, you want to decide what's right for you based on you and your budget. So these are the different ways of making friends outside when you work from home, or even while you're sitting in your home itself. So a few things. One, just to do a quick recap, is just simply going outside, whether it's cafe shops, restaurants, hotels. The other is meetup, and the meetup or events or conferences, that's the other place. The third is going to places to work, such as co-working spaces, and lastly, online groups. In all of these 5 areas, you want to think about, one, what's right for you and what you need right now. If it's just people you just need to talk to, or do you want to build deeper, lasting relationships with friends? And you want to also look at your budget, see what's right for you. And lastly, you want to look at time, because sometimes some communities want you to be very involved, others allow you to be flexible in terms of how much time is involved in there. If it's something like events, you're going to have to spend an entire day, typically, if you want to go there, if it's a conference. But if it's more of like a weekend or perhaps evening events, that's going to take just a short amount of time. Again, in all of these, you want to figure out what's right for you, but that's a few different places of how to make friends when you work remotely. And the thing is, just because you work remote, it does not mean you need to be alone. So what do you think? Did I miss anything? Let me know in the comments below of how else can you make friends when you're working remotely. If you want to join a private community of like-minded founders and remote leaders, take a look at Council Club. The link is below, or just head to council.club. It's a curated community of remote leaders where you can have serious conversations of roundtables or just casual chit-chats. And part of being member gives you exclusive access to perks and discounts. So take a look, and in the meantime, subscribe on the link below for YouTube so you're going to get notified when the next video drops.